Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or as we like to say here at Shady Acres Woodshop, howdy! Today I have a piece of alder, kind of looks like firewood. Got the regular chainsaw cuts on it. There's nothing finished about these edges, I can tell you that. It's got a couple of cracks there, but they don't go far. It does have bark on, at least for now. You can see I've cut a clearance hole for my chuck jaws, and I've drilled a 5/16 inch hole for my 3/8 inch woodworm screw. I'm going to take it over here to the lathe. We're going to get it mounted up, and who knows what this is going to be. I don't have a clue. Did I say what size it is? It's about 8.5 by 14. Looks like about 1.25 inches thick on this end. Thicker here, of course. About 3 inches thick on that end. Should be fun. Wonder what it's going to be. I don't know. Stand by. A recent comment from a viewer was in regards to not trusting woodworm screws. I've been using them since I've had this lathe, at least, probably, and before that. And I understand how you can think that that little screw isn't going to hold this big piece of wood. But like I explained to him, the important part is having a flat area for your jaws to rest against. Right here. The face of the jaws has to rest against a flat area. And if you can get that, and that's why I cut this clearance hole, and then I also took a chisel and cut away some of the high parts around here so that they don't hit this part of the jaw. I only want them to touch here. Can't touch anything but this woodworm screw in the face of the jaws. And then it's just a matter of screwing it on. And you'll know once you get this tightened up if you can trust it or not. And right now it's getting real tight. And I trust it. I think it's going to hold. Boy, I'm just not sure that bark's going to stay on though. That's a big gap in there, and it's so big that I can't put glue in there and squeeze it down. It's really big, so it's likely a big chunk of this bark's going to go flying, maybe all of it. I just don't have any way to know. But we'll find out. So that's what it looks like on the backside. And it's nice and tight against the face of those jaws. Yeah, we're good. On the other hand, no matter how confident you are in that woodworm screw and how nice and flat the face is, on a piece that's odd shaped like this and bound to be out of balance, definitely bring up your tailstock. I'm going to step over here by the headstock and turn up the speed and see how fast we can go. See how out of balance this is or isn't. Got some pretty good vibration there. I'm going to try right there, about 650 RPM. We'll work at flattening off the bottom, and I just don't know what kind of shape to go with. I'll probably upsweep towards this point up here, towards the high point of the top side. That's about all I think I can do with something like this. We'll put a base around here, and we'll likely put a tenon on. So I'm going to get my mask and face shield on. I'm going to sharpen up my 5/8 inch bowl gouge, and we're going to get to turning. Let's rock and roll. Well, you know what I did? I made a mistake. I balanced this piece before I drilled the hole for the woodworm screw. I balanced it to see how in balance it was going to be. So I rested it on a point on the top, and I just moved it back and forth until I found a place where it rested well. It didn't have that drop to it. So now that I'm removing more material from this end than this end, it's getting out of balance. You can see that, maybe you can see, that I have more distance from here to here than I do from here to here. So that was a mistake on my part. I didn't think ahead. So what am I going to do to remedy it? About the only thing I can do is either take it off the lathe and cut some off of this end with my bandsaw, or remount the remount where the woodworm screw is. Let's see how big the difference is. From here to here is about 6.5, and over here, 8 inches. Okay, I ended up taking 1 inch off of this end rather than 1.5 inches, because when I measured on the top side, that's what needed to come off, was 1 inch. So on the bottom it's still off by 1/2 inch over here, but the real problem is this is 5.25 inches from this side, and this is 3.75 inches from this side. So it's still off balance. I was able to turn up the speed, however, to 750. There's quite a bit of vibration, and I'm not sure that it's going to get much better as I go along. We're just going to have to find out. And I also took a minute to sharpen up. Let me get my mask and face shield back on, and we'll get back to turning. Okay, so there's our tenon size. We'll work up to that, and I think this is going to be the base right here for it to sit on. Now I'm going to take my diamond point tool and straighten up the sides on this tenon. That looks pretty good. Okay, time for sanding. I wonder how we're going to do that. I don't know. Going to be a pain in the neck. Well, I've been standing here wondering how I'm going to sand this, because there's just more air than there is wood. So I decided to go with my Sandoflex, and I'll just spin this up. Let me get my mask on and I'll show you how it's going to work. So I'm spinning the lathe at 350 RPM forward, and I'll just hold this out here. So as the piece of wood is coming down, the Sandoflex is coming up against it. And then I can also do it in reverse just by reaching across. So that's what it's going to look like, and I'm starting with 80 grit. I'll work up through 320. That's the finest I have in my Sandoflex, and I'll bring it back when it's time to put some finish on here. I also will do the ends. I'll just hold it still and do the ends like that. Okay, see you back here in a little bit. Well, that sanding was kind of a pain in the butt, but it's done now, and I'm tickled about it. And this isn't the finest finish anyone could ever get on a piece as far as smoothness, but I'm picky about my finishes, and I'm picky about sanding, and I spend a lot of time doing it, just like I did this time. But sometimes it doesn't do as much good as other times. When you're dealing with a piece that's as out of balance as this is, and odd shaped like this, you cannot hope to get a fine finish on there. But that's not what you're going to see with this piece. It's smooth. It's going to feel good on these. This is a chainsaw edge right here, and this is a chainsaw edge over here. This is my bandsaw cut that I made, so it's fairly smooth. And it's all been sanded. Chainsaw cuts, bandsaw cuts, it's all been sanded. but it's not going to be a fine finish like a museum piece or some piece of artwork. It's not like that. But you won't see that. You're going to see this odd piece of wood with a finished bowl in the middle, and you're going to be amazed. At least the typical viewer will be amazed, and by viewer I mean somebody picking this up and touching it. Look at that. That's some beautiful grain there. I hope that's showing up on camera. That's just beautiful. Kind of a ribbon grain right through here. And I'm using Howard Feed and Wax, my finish of choice lately. So I'm going to take a little brush and shove some finish into these bug holes. And I do that just for a uniform color so that the lightness of the bug holes doesn't show up so much. It'll blend in with the body of the piece. And I did take this off the woodworm screw just a few minutes ago and microwaved it just in case there's any live bugs still in there. I haven't seen any, but you never know. This piece of alder has been sitting on this property since before we moved in, which is 30 years ago. I don't know its history. There's no alder on this property that's this as big as this was. This was a very large piece, and it's still a very large piece. This is just something that was cut off of it. I really like that little feature right there. I don't know if that shows up. Kind of a little divot in the bark. So I'll let that set up for half an hour or so. I'll buff it up and I'll bring you back when it's time to start hollowing out the top side. Yippee! Getting exciting now. Okay, I have the piece mounted on the chuck. I can turn it about 750 RPM. There's quite a bit of vibration going on. I've got a couple ideas of what I want to do here. So I'm going to start out with a smallish bowl and go from there. We'll see if it gets bigger, or we'll see if it becomes an emerging bowl, or just what. Let me get my mask and face shield on. I'll be using a 1/2 inch standard grind bowl gouge. I'm probably going to have to take the tailstock away kind of early because I can't get a good angle. Handle of the tools hitting before I can get over here. But actually that's about the size I had in mind to start with anyway. And of course I don't have a lot of thickness, but I do have a long ways to go. But I just can't get carried away with it. I have to keep that in mind. In my opinion, this bark is not the most beautiful bark. Not like cherry bark or walnut or something really nice. And the only way you can make it look good is to reveal the edges like this. Now that's really something to me. That looks really great. There's so much of it. That's why I was trying to think of something else I could do that would reveal more of the edge. This finished edge over here with the bark showing looks pretty good. Like that. Oh, I'll just keep going here, but I am going to have to get rid of the tailstock pretty dang quick. Yeah, I just can't get in there. I hate to get rid of it so early, but because of all the vibration, but I just can't. I can't get a steeper side, and I want a steeper side. There's so much vibration, I feel better with it in place, but that's the way the ball bounces sometimes. Yeah, that's looking better. So I guess what I was thinking was, if you've seen my Bad Dream bowl that I did a couple months ago, a few months ago, whenever it was, that happens to be my personal favorite that I've ever done. And so I was thinking of duplicating it or doing something similar. Not the same piece of wood, and that's why I mentioned the bark. That had some real nice looking bark on it, and that helped quite a bit. But because this is so high and this is so low, that if I cut in out here, I've got about 3/4 of an inch, maybe an inch, that I have to go in here before I ever even touch this. And again, there's not a lot of thickness, so that side would end up being so much deeper than this side. I'm not sure how that would look, but this doesn't look great. It needs something else because, like I said, there's so much of this bark that isn't beauteous. So what to do? I guess I'll keep going on the bowl and decide as I go along. Just don't know yet. Well, I can't go much bigger or I'm going to destroy my opportunity for an emerging bowl. I may have already done that. Oh boy, can you see that? Look at that bark. It's loose all the way along here. From about here to at least here. So if I'm going to cut into it, I'm going to have to glue it down. I guess it's too loose over here to glue, but there is some area here that I can glue and here. So I guess I'll do that for a while. That's going to take me a while. It's going to take quite a bit of time to dry, and I'm going to have to clamp it, so this might be it for today. I'll see you back here when I figure it out. As you can see, I've stuck a couple of wedges in there to separate the bark from the wood, and now I'm just going to put some tight bond down in there. I'm just going to let it drip on down. Well, it's been a few days. I haven't not been able to get back out here, but I'm out here today. My glue has set up. I took it in the house where it could get hard. It's not perfect, but I think it'll hold. Turning at 650 RPM. I'm just about to my final bottom thickness. I think I'm going to scrape this. Okay, I think that's good. So let's see what we're going to do the outside of the bowl with. When I did my Bad Dream bowl, this is the tool that I used to cut the outside of the bowl, and it worked pretty well. Now there went the bark from that edge, huh? Wow, oh, some clear over here. And we're missing a chunk somewhere. I think I felt that hit my shoulder. Oh, and that's loose too. Well, what to do? Have this be a natural edge and have this be a live edge. I'll have to glue this down. I'm going to turn the camera off and decide what to do. You might want to go somewhere for this one. Well, that didn't take long to figure out. Rather than try and glue this back on here and have it not stay and come apart again, I'm just going to go a different route. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take regular carpenter's glue and glue this bark down over here so that's nice and tight. And then I'm going to hot glue this in place temporarily, and that's just so that I can finish making this cut and then pull this off in one piece. And what that'll give me is a natural edge all the way around here, and live edge out here with the bark on, you know, jaggedy edges on the sides, and I think that'll look okay. I think it'll look good, actually. And you'll have a lot of exposed bark here that'll get darker, and it'll be a nice contrast with the light colored bark. So that's the way I'm gonna go. So I'll see you back here in a day or two when I get this glued up and ready to turn again. Okay, we're about 24 hours later. We're still turning at about 650 RPM. And it's cold out here, 34 degrees, 34. Uh-oh. Well, okay, that's okay. That's that part that I glued on. It just came off, and no harm done so far, except, boy, that's kind of a nasty thing. I know you're thinking, Phil, this is about the ugliest thing you've ever turned. I know that's what you're thinking. That's okay. It's okay, we're not done yet. I want to stop before I go through the bottom here. I better measure that up. About 3/16 of an inch. I'm going to have to do something about this. I don't know quite what. It looks cool, but it'll dig right into you. I think I still need to widen out because I can't get right here where I need to be. I'm hitting this still. So I still need to widen out the cut. I can't think of any kind of scraper I can get in there, or gouge. Maybe the sweatback. I might be able to do some pull cuts on there. I just don't want to do more damage than good. Well, that's some scary crap right there. I don't like the idea of this. Oh, way better. Whoa, way better. Good job. Still gonna be a pain to sand. You know, I think we're done. Oh, except I gotta turn the inside of this some more. I got a lot of thickness there. Over here I got probably less than an eighth, well, yeah, less than an eighth of an inch. Well, I wasn't sure we were gonna get there, but we're getting there. Okay, I gotta work on the inside of this bowl. 5/8 inch bowl gouge. Scraper. Well, have I made you a believer yet? You still think it's ugly? Come on. Waiting for the finish? Want to see it all sanded and finished up? Okay, I can do that. I'm going to use a variety of sanding methods. I'm going to use my Sandoflex, as I always do on the bark. Okay, that's one thing. This is a great tip that a viewer gave me when I did my bad dream bowl. I had a hard time sanding inside here, and as I recall, I just used my fingers, and it wasn't pleasant. It was not pleasant. I had this spinning at like 350 RPM, and it wasn't any fun for me. He suggested taking a foam brush and putting sandpaper around it, and then I can keep my hand out of the way. What a great idea. It's still going to be kind of problematic, and I hope I don't ruin this brush. I only have one more, and it's bigger than this. but I hope I can get through all the grits using this one brush. I'll get the hang of it after a few tries. I will. I'll get the hang of it. Anyway, so that's how I'm going to do that part. And then I'm just going to use my normal 2-inch sanding disc to sand the inside of the bowl. So that's what I'm going to be doing for probably about 2 hours, be my guess. Maybe more, probably not less. And I'll bring you back when it's time to put some finish on here. Don't go anywhere. Okay, now what do you think? Still hate it, or are you impressed? I'm not going to try and tell you that this is the best sanding job anyone ever did, because it's not. Just try and get in there. The foam brush idea kind of worked pretty good, and then it kind of didn't, and it worked. It was a great idea. I still think it's a great idea, and it might work in some circumstances, but there's just too much hitting it as it comes around, and trying to keep it away from this and touching this and keeping it away from this and touching this. It just was really difficult. So I did a whole lot of hand sanding in here, and I sanded up through 400 grit, but it's still not great. It's just not great, but it feels smooth, and I think it'll look better once there's some finish on there, which we're about to do. Is there anything else about this you notice that's different than it was before? Because there is something. You see it? You see it? Right here. The bark came off. And here it is now. And because of these 3 cool little nodules, it's easy to fit right back on there, just like it was. And I could have done that, and I considered doing that. I was gonna do that. But then I looked at those nodules and I thought, well, that is just too cool. I don't want to cover those up. And then when I got to looking over here, there's no bark over here. So why put it back? I like those nodules so much, I considered pulling off all the rest of the bark and see if there's some more under there. But because I glued it on, I'd probably have a heck of a time getting it back off. So not going to. I'm going with this. I like it. I hope you like it. So let's get some finish on there and see if that improves the outlook. This was real easy to sand in here. And like I say, the whole piece is quite smooth. It may not look smooth, but when you touch it, it feels real nice. It feels real nice to the hand. I'm sure I'm going to have to brush a lot of this on. I don't know if I can reach all the way to the bottom of this. I don't think so. Yeah, almost, but not quite. I can over here. I've got to brush it into the bug holes anyway. What do you think now? Is it looking better? I think so. Well, I won't make you watch all this because this is going to take some time. Well, there it is. Finish is on. Time to turn it around and take off that tenon. It's late out here and it's cold out here, and man, I'll be glad to get this done. I'm having a good time with it, and I really like it. I hope you like it nearly as much as I do. So I'm just installing a little round block of wood here in my chuck. I'm going to put this non-slip cloth on here, then the bowl, and then bring up the tailstock. There's my hole there for reference. I don't foresee any problems doing it this time, except that the piece is out of balance and oblong and odd and all that. But it shouldn't really be a problem. Spin this up slowly. See if we're running true, and we sure are. Then I'll just take a 1/2-inch bowl gouge, turn the speed up to around 500, and just start working away that tenon. Check for clearance, and I have clearance. So now I'm going to switch to a 3/8-inch swept back gouge and remove the rest of this tenon. I'm going to turn the speed down here a little bit, about 320 or about 350. Okay, looking good. Now I'm going to slow the speed down about 200, and I'm just going to apply the bevel of the gouge against the bottom of the bowl. Pressure towards the headstock. Right hand on the gouge, left hand on the switch. When that little nub stops turning, we'll know we're through. Just like that. Easy peasy. Then I'll just take this over to the workbench and sand it up. Well, there it is. One alder emerging bowl in the books. Now what do you think? Still ugly? I don't know, I kind of like it. I don't know if that's the front or if that's the front. But in any event, it's done. And I'm glad. There's the bottom finished up. I can't help it. I like it. If you like this video, thumbs up please. I'd sure appreciate it. If you're a subscriber, thank you very kindly. I truly appreciate that. If you're not a subscriber, you might consider becoming one. I put out regular videos about one a week, and I'd like to keep in touch. Your comments are always welcome, and I respond to all of them. So for now, this is Phil, Shady Acres Woodshop, signing off.